fun, tarnation!
I meant to do that.
Howdy folks, this is Applegeek, and here we are at the end of the season, just about. This is My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 24. Last episode before the big finale. I have absolutely no idea what to expect of this one. My tactics are working, I am completely avoiding all spoilers, so all I know is that the last few episodes here have been really great, last couple especially. So I'm hoping that we're going to be ending on a positive note here. I hope the trend continues. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So without further ado, let's give episode 24 a watch, starting now. Spike! Aww! I love seeing him fly. Ooh. Still getting the hang of the wings?
Okay, Spike, now let's try a flip. Remember, 2 flaps, then straight up.
She's teaching Spike how to fly. Interesting. It's gonna be a Wonderbolt next. Ooh. Aw. So apparently we've got a Spike episode. I look forward to this. Uh-oh. Ah.
You're doing great, Spike. Now let's see the big finish.
Okay. What do we got? Sonic Spike Boom? Oh. Ouch.
I don't know about big, but I am definitely finished.
Maybe I should get Rainbow Dash. She's the one who taught me advanced flying techniques.
Ah.
No thanks. If I'm gonna mess up, I'd rather do it in front of you.
Aww.
I just don't understand why none of your advice is helping.
Because she's teaching you to fly like a pony instead of a dragon.
What's the difference?
Well, we don't have feathers for starters.
Oh. That is an excellent point. Dragon wings are very different. Okay, I seriously approve of whatever's gonna happen in this episode. Wow, quite graceful.
Thank you so much! How did you know I just needed to bend my wings?
Honestly, this is Dragon 101. Usually dragon parents teach this stuff.
Aw. Oh.
Spike
gonna go back to the Dragonlands?
Thinking about our flying lesson.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe I overlooked something as simple as feathers. It's no wonder you were having trouble.
You're a little out of your element there.
I wish I had more dragonish knowledge to give you. Do you think being raised by ponies has affected you in other ways?
Oh.
Spike?
Is she finally
say
realizing
something,
some of this?
Sorry, I'm just finishing up this thank you throw pillow for Smolder.
Aww!
I get when I'm in the embroidery zone.
Well, he has been his own rarity plushie, so, you know, he's got game there, so. Okay, I am loving this concept. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Spike go back to the Dragonlands here. To what end? I'm not entirely sure yet, but... Or is this just going to be an episode focusing on him and Smolder bonding or something? I'm not sure, but I've been waiting for them to use Smolder more to help Spike, so this is interesting. Okay, where are we going?
It's a pillow, but not for your head. Although it could be. It's a throw pillow. They're more casual. You can use them anywhere. You don't like it.
Father knows
It's
bees.
not bad. It's just dragons don't really use pillows at all.
Hey, you like cute things now. You admitted it.
What's that?
I don't know, but it's getting right.
What is... Who or what is that?
Okay.
Aww.
Now I really owe you for the lesson.
Darn it. That was a nice pillow. What? Who?
Young dragons. Name's Sludge. How are your tails?
Sludge?
Ooh.
Ooh.
You all right?
Yeah. What happened?
To what? I don't need to explain myself to a couple of baby dragons.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah, you're not in good shape there, buddy.
Hurt and need help. So I'm taking you to Twilight's castle whether you like it or not.
Castle, eh?
Uh-oh. Where is this
I'm
going?
glad Spike brought you here, Sludge. I understand you made quite an impression in town.
Literally, there's a hole
I-
in everything.
Well, I
was
hope
just
you're
gonna
not
say-
expecting me to fix it.
Nice wheelchair.
It doesn't look like you're in much shape to do anything.
I'll manage. Dragons take care of themselves. I don't need help from a bunch of castle-living ponies.
Darling, do be careful.
I'm fine.
I can't watch. You're not the first stubborn dragon we've met, you know.
And sometimes even dragons need help.
I promise, my friends and I will only do enough to get you back on your claws.
Well, this is an interesting development. What? Oh. Okay. Oh, it's the sling. Alright. That's adorable. Pillow denied. Aww. Boy, they're showing them true equestrian hospitality right here. Oh, wasn't that like the cherry sort of shit? Or no, what is... Oh! Apple saucer? Cider maker! Okay. Oh, compliments, I guess? What? That actually worked? Why are the Wonderbolts helping with this? Oh, there we go. Oh boy. That looks scrumptious. Gem cupcakes. Oh boy. We're forcing him to jog. Rehabilitation complete.
I know you had your reservations, but it's good to see you feeling better.
Thanks, I guess.
Now he's not gonna want to leave.
Friends of four, darling.
Aww.
You're pretty lucky to have friends like these, kid.
Actually, I was orphaned as an egg in Twilight Ridge. So these ponies are more than my friends. They're my family.
We try our best, but sometimes I worry maybe Spike is...
Missing something deep down and dragonish.
Really? Wow. I can't tell you how glad I am to hear that.
Why an equestrian?
'Cause now he gets to say and teach him.
I wasn't gonna say anything since your life seems so perfect, but I have a confession to make. Coming to Ponyville wasn't an accident. I was looking for you.
What?
Spike? I'm your father.
Sorry.
I expected Smolder's father! Not
Well,
this!
the crash part wasn't on purpose, but heaven here was.
How did I not see this?
Everywhere for you, kid.
Did you ask in the Crystal Empire? I'm kinda well known.
Actually, Spike's well known everywhere. Not a lot of dragons were hatched by the Princess of Friendship.
Yeah, exactly one.
Make it sound so simple. I wish you'd been there to help me search.
I can't believe it.
Or,
I have
wait
so
a
many
minute.
questions.
Well, ask away. Answering questions is what dads are for.
I smell a rat here.
I guess my biggest question is simple. Why was I an orphaned egg?
Kid, you sure you don't want to ask something else? It's a lot of pain.
Yeah, alright, that confirms it. He's not Spike's dad. He's just using that excuse to stay in Ponyville.
Dragon I'd ever met. The Dragon Lord even picked her to scout for the Great Migration, and even though she just laid your egg, we knew she'd have to go. But finding the migration route could take a lifetime, and you deserved a chance to know your mother. So I went looking for her, carried your egg to places no dragon or pony has ever been. Past Mount Eris, the abandoned home of the hippogriffs.
Did you visit Klooge Town?
You've been to Klooge Town?
They finally named it!
Also, the hippogriffs returned
Like,
to Mount
actually in
Eris
canon
after
named
we
it.
helped them defeat the Storm King.
Oh, well, Have you heard of the land of the scale collectors?
What?
Because that's where your mother's trail finally led. To a prison world of dragon hunters, where I was forced to choose between surrendering myself or surrendering your egg. Of course, there was no way I was gonna sacrifice my boy. So they took me instead, and that's where I've been ever since. Locked up somewhere not even the Princess of Friendship has heard of.
Whoa.
Right. How convenient.
Whatever happened to Spike's mom? And how did the egg make it all the way back to Equestria by
All good
itself?
questions.
I wish I had all the answers.
Well, that's all in the past. The only thing that matters now is that we're together, and I'm gonna make up for lost time. I hope you don't mind, but I have a list of all the things I always wanted to do with my dad.
Of course he does. He's Twilight's assistant. Of course he has a
With
list.
you by my side, I feel like we can do anything. What do you want to do first?
Well, I've kind of been working on a list for a long time.
Dude, you want to do all of this?
Oh, I mean, we don't have to.
If you think doing everything on this incredibly long list is gonna fill the hole where your dragonishness should be, then
Dragonishness.
that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Oh, I really am not looking forward to Spike getting hurt in this, because I really feel he's going to. That's not how you play. Okay, sure, whatever. Wow, hearthwarming even? Aww. Yeah, he didn't have anything for Spike, did he? No. That was all Rick. Oh my, they're fake. Oh! Really? Those look good. Greedy much?
I can't believe we got so many things done. But this is all my stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you always wanted to do with me?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do whatever you want. But if I had a castle like this, with all this stuff, I'd probably just lay around all day doing nothing like a real dragon.
Like a real dragon?
Sure. I'm not surprised you don't know any better. Twilight basically raised you as a pony. You're barely a dragon at all.
Huh?
Ouch. Spike, something tells me you don't want to be a
Spike,
real
how are
dragon.
things going with Sludge?
If that's what they're like.
I thought having him around would make me feel more dragonish, but I kind of feel less.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I could help.
Oh, shucks.
You have exceeded your
I shouldn't have said
cupcake quota.
anything about you being more pony than dragon. I just wish we had more in common.
Maybe you two can come up with ways to turn up Spike's, dragonishness.
You think that's something we can do?
You know what, son? I think it is.
This won't end well.
Spike,
What do we
I'm
get?
gonna teach you a thing or two about being a dragon.
We get a song?
So listen up, my boy.
Oh my word.
Because I'm only gonna say this once. Look at this castle where you live.
It's pretty sweet, right?
You can't be a dragon here.
I can't.
Look at these books up.
Hey! Those were very carefully organized. See?
Pile's not right, I fear. Trust me, I got you covered here. You see all this solid
Nice transition.
stuff you're
Hey.
surrounded with? This has got to be the first thing to go. Nothing about this place.
That's
is
plushy
right,
abuse.
and there's too much fluff. All these fancy robes tossed in a pile. Take those goblets, dishes. Is that gold still not enough? Deponifying might just take a while.
Those apple snacks look really good.
Sure, this place is grandiose. It's just gross. Time we make the lot all disappear. Reality, you need a dose. To all these ponies, you're too close. You just can't be a dragon here. Good job, my boy, but this is still just the beginning. Each and every dragon has a swagger all his own. Watch, and I'll show you what I mean. this with so much stuff to weigh you down. A dragon always
I thought all dragons were hoarders, though.
Lose this. Oh, this is nice. Life is soft, your scales are coiffed. These pillows, beds, and sheets are washed. A delight, but it's just not right.
I like the song, though.
Every dragon must be free. Look at you, then look at me. Since when do dragons brush their teeth?
Yeah, that's why. That's why they should.
But to a dragon, it's just gross. Time we make the lot all disappear.
What do I do?
Hey! That's Starlight abuse.
After that, then you'll be free. You just can't be a dragon here.
Ha! You're right. I feel better already.
See, what did I tell you? You're very lucky that I found you. Now go get me some more.
You got it. I'm gonna go get you all the cushy pony stuff I've got. Dad.
Great. Go get him, son. 'Cause this dragon just can't wait to live here.
Okay, Rarity, if you're ever gonna come to Spike's defense on anything,
I
please
just
do it
thought I'd check
now.
to see if you and Sludge had any luck turning up your dragonishness. It's hard not to feel like somehow I let you down all these years. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to barge in on you.
Don't worry about it. Your castle is Sue Castle.
Right. Well, I'll just get out of your way.
Wow. Okay. Aw.
Oh, Spike. I'm so sorry. My morning is not going well. What is all
That's
this?
putting it
Why'd
mildly.
you leave the castle so early?
I didn't leave. I spent the night outdoors to get in touch with my dragon side.
Outdoors?
Yeah, and Sludge asked me to bring him the best breakfast Ponyville has to offer so he can show me how a real
That's
dragon would eat.
not a
See
breakfast.
you later.
And that's why I thought we could use the map to...
Yeah.
Hey, gang. Dad was just showing me how a real dragon would act in the throne room.
Unfortunately, that's very true.
Dragons like to sprawl when they get their claws done. Now, if you'll all excuse me, it's time for my bath.
Isn't he the best?
I'm
Nah.
not sure that's exactly
No.
the word I would use.
Spike, the bath isn't gonna fill itself, son.
Be right there, Dad.
I'm glad you're not spending the night outside again.
Oh, I am. I'm just looking for a good bedtime story to read to my dad first.
Okay,
It's nice
when
that
is
we
he
have
gonna wake up
someone
to
who
this?
Show you dragon culture. But are you sure that's what Sludge is doing?
What do you mean?
Well, taking over your room, making a mess of things.
That is dragon culture.
You never acted like that.
That's because you raised
It's
me. Now
maybe
I'm
it
gonna
is
have a
part
chance
of
to see
dragon
how I'm
culture, but
supposed to be.
doesn't mean
I
that's
don't
what
think
you
you're
should.
supposed to be any
yeah.
different than who you are.
Maybe you just don't like that I have a real parent now.
Oh! Ow!
I'm glad Sludge is here. I just wish he wasn't such a...
Dragon? Of all ponies. I can't believe you would have a problem with that.
That hurts.
Oh,
Also, official pony X-rays there. But, dude, you
what
do.
happened to you?
Okay, time for a little
Just
truth here,
one side
Smolder.
I'm meant to. It's not like dragons are supposed to live in castles.
I guess not. But I live in the school. Nothing says we have to live outside.
Exactly. Thank you.
Confused.
Thank you.
It's been great having Sludge show me how to be a real dragon, but Twilight just doesn't get it.
What do you mean?
She can't handle how good at being a dragon Sludge is. Maybe someday I'll be able to lay around doing nothing as well as he does.
What?
Well, not now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too busy bringing him pony stuff so he
Here
can
we
show
go.
me what a dragon would do with it.
So, Sludge just lays around while you wait on him clawing tail?
Mm-hmm.
Dragons are rude and rebellious, but they aren't lazy lumps who take advantage of their kids.
Oh.
I'm really confused.
There's some truth.
Me too. Why don't you tell me everything Sludge said about me?
Yes. Let's share.
Hey, what's going on, son?
Twilight doesn't like having real dragons in the castle, so I told her we're moving
We're gonna
out.
move out. Yeah. I knew it. I knew it.
Spike! I found the perfect cave where you two can live. There aren't even any comfortable rocks inside.
That does sound perfect.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not sure I fully demonstrated all the ways a dragon...
The foundation is crumbling.
But we're not gonna live here anymore, so it doesn't matter.
It matters to me. I want to make sure you have all the knowledge you need.
But I do. Dad, you've already shared so much. This bed is much too soft. Just take that silk rope up.
We reprising this, really?
Stop! I'm not your father.
Thank you!
I just said that to get in on this sweet castle life.
So, you pretended to be my dad?
Don't look at me like that, kid. I did what any dragon would do.
No, you didn't.
Hey, I saw an opportunity and I took it. That's what dragons do.
No, it isn't.
You know what?
Oh.
I don't need this. I'm out of here. Enjoy life in Ponytown. I'm taking this pillow.
You know what? Fine, have
I
it.
can't believe I thought some pony like that could show me how to be anything.
It must be hard growing up not really knowing who you are.
That's the thing. I know exactly who I am. And how I got that way. Twilight?
Oh, hi. Where's your father?
He's gone. Turns out he wasn't what a real dragon should be after all. He also wasn't my real dad.
Oh, Spike. I'm so sorry.
I'm the one who's sorry. You were just worried about me and I lost my temper. Sludge was just a great big phony.
I have to say, I'm not surprised. There's no way a dragon like that was related to you. But if you still want to search for your real family, I'd understand if you spent more time in the Dragonlands.
I don't think so. I already know who my real family is.
It's me, right?
Besides, there's no way I'm living without pillows.
Great episode. Great. Just can't be dragging here. Dave Pettit. Okay. Great episode. Oh. I'm definitely going to have things to say about this, so... yeah. Alright, stay tuned everyone. I will be right back. Well, this was a good episode. Not a shell shocker episode like the last couple have been, but it was good, and honestly one of the better episodes of the season, at least for me. You know, writers of the past have had a hard time writing Spike well for episodes focused on him, but Josh Haber really has done pretty well for him, and he did so again in this episode, I thought. And Josh also did a fantastic job of writing Twilight well in this episode, too. And, in fact, let's start with Twilight on this one. You know, Twilight's kind of gone back and forth a lot in her relationship with Spike. You know, there have been many times where she's shown that she really does care a lot about Spike. And I don't know that I've ever felt that she doesn't care about him, but, you know, and clearly she considers herself like a mother figure to him as well. But there are also numerous examples where it seems like she's just kind of taken his assistance for granted, or at least has not done very well in considering his feelings on various matters. So it just kind of has left me with this feeling of, you know, does she really truly care about him the way that she should all the time? You know, and I've been wanting to see an episode where she's actually confronted with some of these shortcomings of hers and ends up gaining a greater appreciation for everything that Spike has actually done for her. But now, based on what we saw in this episode, for the moment at least, I don't feel like that's still a necessary thing to do. I think her feelings about Spike have been made quite clear at this point, and I loved it. You know, and also there's the matter of Twilight's just overall behavior as a princess. I mean, I know this is almost more like a family situation, not so much a princess thing, but it in terms of overall, the maturity of her responses to emotional situations. She's often let her emotions get the best of her, and, she ends up making snap judgments that kind of come back to haunt her as a result. I mean, we saw this happen with, horseplay and stuff in this season. There are many times where she just simply doesn't act in a way that's becoming of a princess. But then again, there are times where she shows that she actually has grown and matured in this area. As I've mentioned many times before, the first time I really saw Twilight acting with the grace, maturity, and wisdom of a princess was back in the episode Twilight Time in Season 4. Still one of my favorite moments for Twilight, personally. And since then, I've kind of struggled a bit to find situations where she shows that same level of maturity, but those instances have now increased in frequency a bit here in Season 8, which I've been very happy to see. First of all, you have the way in which she very gently, just advised and supported the CMCs back in Surf and or Turf. Didn't really take over, just kind of was there to help them as needed. And then there's the way she owned up to her mistakes in the Mean Six at the end, where she got everyone to calm down and make up right before they all had this major meltdown in their friendships with each other. Of course, Twilight has also had some misses this season too, like her treatment of the CMCs in Marks for Effort, and some of her behavior in Friendship University, things like that. But, still, she's definitely showing signs of improvement as a princess, and this episode is the highlight of Season 8 in this regard for me. Just right off the bat, you've got Twilight patiently coaching Spike on flying techniques to the best of her ability, only offering support and encouragement even when it's clear that he wasn't doing so well and she was struggling to find a way to help him. She's clearly quite busy with being both a princess and the school head mare, yet she took the time out of that busy schedule to actually spend with Spike one-on-one to help him out. And what actually impressed me the most about this is she did not just shove a bunch of notes and diagrams and things like that into Spike's face and expect him to just figure it out. She was actually personally coaching him. Also, she very easily admitted that she was coming up short in her abilities to teach flight, and offered to bring in Rainbow Dash, who is admittedly the best flyer that they've got. After all, she trained Twilight. Given how serious Twilight is about her level of research and her teaching abilities, I was rather happy to see her show such humility and so easily admit to her limits on this particular subject. And even when Smolder showed up and pointed out such a seemingly simple and basic technique that Twilight had overlooked due to the difference in wing types, she didn't turn the focus of the issue back onto herself by being jealous or kind of bashing herself or anything of the sort. Like, she just she was just very happy for Spike that he finally figured this out, and felt bad that she had not been able to do more for him. And, on that front, she encouraged Spike to actually go back and visit the Dragonlands, and, so they could learn more about his culture and such. Just because she knew herself that she couldn't teach him on this, couldn't offer anything. And, I kind of get the feeling that was a really hard thing for her to suggest. Not because it's, from a position of selfishness or anything, like, oh, I'm going to lose my assistant. But, she knows that Spike is growing up and that, he deserves to know more about his culture, but he might, as a result of doing that, he might also end up growing away from her. And I think she's kind of afraid of losing her relationship with him, or at least that it'll change in ways that she might not like. And I was also very impressed that when Spike later literally crushed her heart with his careless statements to her about having real parents, she didn't get wound up over that and respond in anger. I think she just took the hit and kept on supporting as best she could, because she just wants so deeply for him to be happy. And that was, man, I felt so bad for Twilight in that situation. It was very much a careless statement on Spike's part in that. But, I understand why it happened in the heat of the moment, but I still think, I think Twilight could have maybe not handled that as well as she did, and I was really glad that she didn't choose to escalate the situation in any way. You know, and honestly, I think she just knew deep down that he really didn't mean what he said, and that, you know, that he really was a good person who, like I said, deserved a chance to get to know his real family. You know, and then later when he finally admitted his mistake, she didn't hold it over him in any way. You know, she was just very happy to be there for him once again, and also felt very bad that he had to endure that kind of pain himself. You know, she never wanted him to have to go through something like that. I think maybe she knew there was a risk of something like that happening, yet she knew that he needed to go through this himself and figure that out. You know, and I'd say overall this is it's just kind of one of those rare moments where just Twilight really truly handled herself like a princess. You know, and this kind of felt to a certain degree like Twilight Time 2.0, but it was even much deeper and better than that, though, because, you know, this wasn't just her being patient with her students. I mean, this was effectively like a mother-son relationship type issue going on here. You know, she may still yet need to work a bit on her issues of taking Spike for granted sometimes, but any doubts that I might have had about how much she really cared about him have gone right out the window. I mean, those two care for each other very deeply. They are family through and through. And I love seeing that relationship just put right in the spotlight and highlighted and show us just how, so we can see just how strong that is. And, you know, just to finish up with Twilight, I would say, honestly, if she made any mistake in this entire episode, it's basically just that she assumed that Sludge was legit and didn't actually do any checking to confirm that. You know, especially after some of the others of the main six raised questions about these holes in his story. You know, probably would have been a good idea to contact Ember, maybe see if she knew anything about Sludge. You know, especially if she wanted to make sure that Spike wasn't going to get hurt by this guy in some way. I mean, whether it be an imposter or just a lousy dad or whatever. That said, if she had done that, that could have strained her relationship with Spike even more. You know, this really is one of those times that, honestly, we all have at some point in our lives where, you know, sometimes we just need to learn the truth about something on our own, or, you know, have our eyes open to the truth by the right person, and not necessarily the people that we're closest to. You know, with the people we're close to, there can be personal biases that tend to taint our perspective sometimes, and sometimes you just need an outside party to shed some light on the situation, which is what we had in this case with Smolder, actually. You know, I do have to point out some questions I have here regarding the overall plot of this. There's some holes in here, like, you know, why does Twilight still have such little knowledge about dragons since she now has access to dragons? You know, why didn't she learn more about dragons from Ember after she became Dragon Lord and became friendly with the ponies? Why hasn't Twilight learned more about dragons from Smolder, who's been living at the school there for at least several months? You know, why hasn't she asked Smolder to help Spike to learn more about himself and dragon culture and stuff? I mean, she helped out well with the molting period and stuff. And for that matter, why hasn't Smolder herself just naturally, you know, offered more information and things like that? Because, you know, she hangs around with Spike a lot, as evidenced by their apparent fire breathing contests that they have and stuff. So, you know, just overall, you know, not using Smolder more in this regard feels like a bit of a missed opportunity in the season in terms of the overall storyline. But that aside, I was very happy to see Twilight actually get the opportunity to show us just how deeply she cares about Spike in all of this. So, I mean, the end result was very good, I think, despite the premise flaws. Now, as for Spike himself, yes, the main character of the story. You know, and as I mentioned, it seems to be hard to write Spike well. Many of his episodes in the past have had him seemingly act quite a bit out of character, admittedly. But since Gauntlet of Fire in Season 6, I really feel... Well, even actually before that, like, with his performance in the Season 5 finale and stuff from then on, I feel like his episodes have taken a turn for the better in this regard. You know, and in some ways, this episode did feel a little bit like Dragon Quest 2.0, kind of like we're revisiting a little bit of ground we've already covered here, but it's not difficult to see why this needed to happen. You know, even though Spike had at some point made his peace with who he was as a dragon that lives with ponies, that doesn't change the fact that he is adopted, and anyone I've ever known or heard about who's adopted at some point or another has at least been a little bit curious about their real birth parents and, you know, where they came from, why they were given up, you know, things like that. Now that Spike recently went through the molt and got his wings, and also now has another dragon to hang around with, namely Smolder, it stands to reason that he's once again become, you know, kind of curious about his dragon culture, not to mention his own family. And of course, it doesn't help anything when a dragon literally just falls out of the sky claiming to be your father. When Sludge showed up, obviously this is, you know, and claimed to be Spike's father, obviously this came as a shock to everyone, myself included. And even though it quickly became apparent that that was a whopper of a lie, it's not at all difficult to understand why Spike bought into the whole thing. Because, you know, it's finally like all of a sudden opportunity to learn about my past. You know, yeah, I did just to note, I was that caught me way off guard because it really came out of nowhere, and if it, based on the title, I was for some reason thinking that Spike was gonna go back to the Dragonlands with Smolder and meet her family, so her father or something. It just never clicked that we might at some point meet Spike's family. So, and I hope we still do someday. But anyway, more on that. And of course, you know, I am disappointed. On that note, I am disappointed that we didn't actually get to meet Spike's actual family. And I'm sure many people who are watching this episode do feel cheated out of that. You know, especially since we've met the families of all the others, including Starlight. Or at least her father, you know, some background. Spike we haven't seen his background since the beginning of the series, and it's still unknown. You know, that said, I do believe that this situation was rather reflective of some real-life situations and offers some good encouragement to people who are in those situations. You know, there's a lot of people who are adopted and never get to find out what their real parents are like for whatever reason. You know, or like why they were given up for adoption or anything like that. And some people have a really hard time dealing with that, kind of coping with that knowledge. You know, they feel like there's a piece of themselves they would never truly understand unless they can find out where they came from. And some of these people kind of go crazy trying to find out, you know, who the real parents are and what they're like and whatnot. And, you know, if they can end up losing themselves in that quest, if you will. And I'm not saying it's wrong at all to want to know about your past, not in the least. But who you are isn't defined solely by where you came from. You know, and just to note, if you do pursue digging into your past, you might not like what you find. And if you allowed that past to define yourself, and you reach that point where you find out and it's not what you were hoping for, you know, you could end up completely losing your identity. If you're in a good place with people who care about you, you shouldn't need to throw all that away just because you're not who you're supposed to be, or who you think you're supposed to be. Who you're supposed to be is a good person, and you can be that anywhere, no matter who you are, or who you think you are, or where you came from. Spike lost sight of that for a little bit here, but thankfully he did find his way back again. And so, back to the episode itself, I do have to say, I was a bit disappointed to see Spike just waiting on Sludge, claw and tail, so freely. You know, as Smolder put it, waiting on claw and tail. But, you know, Spike is, you know, so genuinely helpful in that way that if he hadn't done that, I honestly would have felt like that was actually out of character for him. So, I mean, he's shown himself to be that way many times in the past, so it did make sense for that to happen, especially when it's my father, you know. I also wish that Spike could have seen a little earlier just how he was being used by Sludge. But, you know, again, sometimes we have blind spots when it comes to things that are important to us, just like I mentioned in the previous episode. You know, he just wanted so badly to be a real dragon that he was just accepting of everything that Sludge was dumping on him without questioning any of it. And he couldn't see that the way Sludge was acting and thus the way Spike himself wanted to act was just not becoming of any creature, dragon or otherwise. Now, of course, I do have to put some fault on the main six here too, because they were just going along with Sludge on all this stuff without fully vetting this, despite their concern about the holes hidden in his story and stuff. I mean, they even went so far as to stage a fake or out of season housewarming celebration and stuff, so father and son could kind of catch up a little bit. But I do appreciate that they were so ready and willing to actually go to those lengths on Spike's behalf, though. I mean, it really shows just how much the entire group cares about Spike, not just Twilight. So that was fun to see. And of course, I do have to ask again, where was Starlight? Clearly she was there, as we saw her getting tossed out of the castle in a bathtub. Not sure what that was all about. It's probably a reference to something. But anyway, and I think her omission from the plot was probably out of convenience, though. As I kind of get the feeling her own past experiences would have allowed her to see right through Sludge, and that she likely would have. Sorry. By seeing through Sludge that way, she would have gotten involved, and that would have sent the story in kind of like a completely different direction than what it did. So, it's probably just easier to leave her out of it than to try and involve her and keep the story on the track that the writers wanted it to be on. I also thought that maybe this was a case where Rarity would have stepped in to protect Spike, since the writers kind of keep poking at whatever this thing is between Rarity and Spike here. But they didn't go there, aside from the return appearance of the Rarity plushie. That's still around. And, I'm kind of glad they didn't go into that, though. I mean, not because I just, don't want to see that constantly be poked at or anything. It's just like with Starlight, that would have been, I think, a significant distraction from the actual issue at hand in this episode. All that said, I am really glad that it came down to Smolder being the one to open up Spike's eyes on this. The fact of the matter is that none of the ponies really have very much dragonish knowledge. So if they had tried to convince Spike that Sludge was a fraud, he probably would have just dug in his heels and said that they didn't really know what they were talking about. And that they were just being selfish in some way, trying to take this away from him or, whatever. As it was, Twilight did actually express concern about Spike's behavior, saying that this wasn't like him, and in a roundabout way kind of suggested that Sludge was a bad influence because he was a dragon. Spike, not surprisingly, took offense at this and basically accused Twilight of being racist against dragons. Now, I don't think Twilight at all meant it that way. I mean, I don't believe that she thought that all dragons are inherently, horrible creatures that are, ill-behaved and whatever. It's just, she could see that this particular one wasn't being a good influence and was expressing concern in that regard. But again, it's easy to see why Spike would have taken that the wrong way. With Smolder, on the other hand, her claims were pretty much above refute on this because she herself is a dragon and grew up in that culture. So she could speak from a position of authority on that. Also, she didn't approach the matter, because she hadn't been involved, she didn't approach the matter of, he's a fraud. She just, made some, stated a few facts about how decent dragons actually act, and expressed confusion about this whole thing with Sludge. And so she got him to share what was going on and, share more facts and whatever. And, basically it's caused Spike to finally realize that he was actually, in fact, being taken advantage of. And thankfully, in the end, she ended up helping Spike, obviously, force Sludge to show his true colors. And Spike realized how poorly he'd been acting, especially, how poorly he'd treated Twilight in all of this. And, I gotta say, just as Twilight has matured, I think Spike has matured an awful lot himself. Sure, he was caught up in the emotion of the moment and made some mistakes, but I was really impressed with how well he took it when Sludge finally admitted that he wasn't Spike's dad. And, also, Spike reaffirmed to Twilight that he knows exactly who he is, and that he doesn't need to dwell on his past to figure that out, which I think is a very mature conclusion that he basically reached on his own. And of course, even in the end, Twilight was still supportive of Spike, learning more about dragonish culture. Even after all this happens, Twilight was still like, hey, I still think you should go back to the Dragonlands and learn more about this. Because she doesn't want him to feel left out on anything. Spike obviously declined this offer, and I do applaud the sentiment behind that on his part, But I do personally still think that Spike should, in fact, visit the Dragonlands to learn more about Dragonish culture, or at least spend more time learning about with Smolder or something. You know, so I do think it's important to know where you come from if you have that opportunity. You know, and even if you choose not to adopt any part of that past into your present life, it's still a good idea to know where you came from, as it just gives you a better overall understanding of your life in general, I think, and a better understanding of the world in general. And, you know, if nothing else, I think the more dragons there are that understand both Dragonish and Ponish cultures, the better. Especially if they're going to be allies in some major confrontation that might be coming up. And so yeah, great conclusion for Spike in all this, I think. Very, very good lesson for him, and great show of maturity on his part. And Twilight's, as I said. As for the Dragonish culture as a whole, I just have to say this episode has actually improved my own personal opinion on this. My own personal opinion on dragons as a whole quite a bit. You know, admittedly, we've not met very few dragons to date, and with such a small sampling, it's been difficult to get a good read on what dragon culture is truly like. Admittedly, I think we know more about dragons than griffins. Griffins is another interesting one, but regardless, you know. And I still would like to see more in the show, get to know them better. And if these cultures are going to become allies together, we'll need to know more. But just Smolder's claims about how real dragons act, I thought were actually rather enlightening. You know, she said dragons are rude and rebellious, which obviously we've seen, but they aren't lazy lumps who take advantage of their kids. That statement gives me a lot more hope than I used to have that the Dragonish culture as a whole could actually be successful in adopting friendship into their culture, since they clearly do care about each other, at least to some degree, within their family structures. You know, they're already pretty powerful beings as it is, so, you know, imagine what they could be like if they stop just always competing with and bickering with each other and unify themselves. You know, since dragons are kind of all about strength, I think the trick will be in showing them that friendship is much more of a strength than it is a weakness. And if that happens, well, pretty much all bets are off as to what their potential is. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on this episode. Again, not an earth-shattering episode, but a really good one, and a great one for Spike, I think. And, yeah, an interesting note to... I feel like it's a good positive note to end on for the end of the series. Again, wish we'd seen actual Spike's family, but now that they've kind of broached that topic, maybe they're setting that up for something in Season 9. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, we are at the end of the season. The finale is up next, and I can't wait to watch that. So, until then, I'll catch you guys later.